This is CNN.
Responding to the changing tide of international events, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization charts a new course.
Congress overturns a ban on abortion counseling at federally funded clinics. A veto battle looms. Welcome to Early Prime. I'm Jonathan Mann. Lou Waters is on.
I'm Cheryl Atkinson. Ahead in this half hour, we will examine how banks and finance companies are encouraging consumers to extend their borrowing binge.
We'll also tell you about the latest tax cut plan from Capitol Hill. Some describe it as a Robin Hood approach. But first, topping the news this hour, CNN has learned that basketball star Magic Johnson of the Los Angeles Lakers will announce today he is suffering from AIDS-related illness. Los Angeles Lakers officials would not confirm or deny this report. A friend of the athlete told CNN, though, quote, Magic Johnson has AIDS. It is the end of his career, unquote. The Lakers have scheduled a news conference for 6 p.m. Eastern. CNN will provide live coverage. Once again, Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today that he is suffering from AIDS-related illness.
The state of Mississippi agrees to a $4 million settlement in an age discrimination suit. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission announced that deal today. It resolves a lawsuit first filed against the Mississippi State Tax Commission back in 1983. The suit alleged the state violated the Age Discrimination in Employment Act by retiring weight enforcement officers on the basis of their age. The $4 million settlement covers back payment of salary and benefits with interest for 59 claimants.
A measure to overturn the ban on abortion counseling at federally funded clinics sailed through the Senate today with enough votes to override a promised presidential veto. The measure fell short, though, of that mark when it passed the House yesterday. But supporters say they believe an override is still possible. The bill now heads to the president's desk. Senators who support the measure say the bottom line is free speech.
Abortion is not the issue here. Free speech is. Congress agreed that federal funds should not be used to perform abortions, but Congress never intended to gag physicians or stop them from informing patients about abortion as an option.
This is not an argument about abortion. The Title X program does not and never has paid for abortions. The disagreement, Mr. President, is over whether a poor woman is entitled to basic information. Shouldn't she be able to receive the basic information that a wealthier woman or a woman who can afford to pay a doctor would rightfully expect to obtain from a health care professional?
Congress has been trying to overturn the counseling ban since the Supreme Court upheld it last year. Meantime, abortion rights groups are asking the Supreme Court to state clearly whether it stands by its 1973 ruling on Roe v. Wade, a ruling that gave women the right to an abortion. They want the court to use a challenge to Pennsylvania's restrictive abortion law to rule on the broader question of women's constitutional right to an abortion. Such a ruling might bring abortion rights to the forefront of the 1992 presidential campaign.
Turns out Washington state voters have split almost evenly on an abortion rights initiative. It could be another week before all the ballots are counted. The measure voted on Tuesday would preserve abortion rights there even if Roe v. Wade is overturned by the Supreme Court. Officials say the matter will be settled by absentee ballots.
America's banks are drawing fire from a national consumer group. The Consumer Federation of America accuses banks of taking advantage of declining Federal Reserve rates to line their pockets and line them at their customers' expense. The group says banks are responsible for the growing gap between interest rates on consumer loans and rates on savings accounts. The group released a report on the disparity this morning. It notes that banks are paying less interest on savings accounts, money market accounts, and certificates of deposit, but their interest rates on personal loans have barely moved, and credit card rates are also unchanged.
Our advice to consumers is very simple. The best investment that you can make is to pay off your credit card balances in full, avoiding average 19% credit card rates. But if you are unable to do so, shift to a lower rate cards. There are cards out there carrying rates as low as 10%.
Robeck says each extra percentage point of interest that banks squeeze out of credit cards can add up to $1 billion in profit.
European leaders say they like the U.S. role in NATO just like it is. At the NATO summit in Rome, President Bush asked if Europe wants a stronger hand in its own defense now that the Soviet threat is diminished. France and Germany have proposed that Europe have its own independent force. But Mr. Bush won assurances from all the NATO partners that a central U.S. role is still desirable. Also today, NATO invited the Soviet Union and 8 former communist countries from Eastern Europe to join in a new North Atlantic alliance. Friday, Mr. Bush holds a news conference in Rome. CNN will carry that live beginning at 8:25 in the morning Eastern Time. That is 13:25 GMT.
In the Philippines, more than 3,000 people are now confirmed dead in the aftermath of this week's tropical storm. Most of the victims lived on Leyte Island in the center of the country. Another 3,000 people are missing, and heavy rain is hampering relief efforts. Some of the dead are being buried in mass graves. Authorities say illegal timber cutting and the absence of vegetation may have contributed to mudslides responsible for many of the deaths.
Actress Jean Tierney, whose striking good looks helped propel her to stardom in the 1940s, is dead. Tierney played the mysterious victim in the murder mystery Laura. It was perhaps her best-known role, but she won an Oscar nomination for her work in another film called Leave Her to Heaven. Jean Tierney achieved stardom around age 20, but later in her life battled a series of tragedies. Most recently, she had been suffering from emphysema. She died late yesterday at home in Houston, where she had lived since 1961 after marrying Texas oil man Howard Lee. Jean Tierney was 70.
And coming up on this edition of Early Prime, musician Frank Zappa, the father of the Mothers of Invention, is seriously ill. We'll have details.
We'll also tell you William Kennedy Smith's opinion of the woman who is prosecuting him. It is not complimentary.
And later on our program, important advice for older Americans who are home rich but cash poor.
Plus, designer Calvin Klein does his thing for spring. Stories with style and much more ahead on Early Prime. Stay with us.
CNN's Early Prime, news and information for people in the prime of life.
The power of intelligent engineering is routinely put to the test at Oldsmobile. And here's the result. Of all the Cutlass Sierras ever sold in the last 10 years, we can say 96% are still on the road. Safely say. Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering.
Available now for $12,695 with Air and V6 engine.
Tonight, the prolific Norman Mailer takes us into the inner workings of the CIA in his newest novel. Plus, Robert Stack returns as Elliot Ness. Tonight on Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
If all you need is a room for the night, any of these will do. Of course, the accommodations have a sameness to them, and the hospitality, it's pretty much no, you can't. There's a better choice. Radisson. With 250 hotels around the world, as individual as the people who stay in them. And every Radisson has a yes, I can spirit. So why let a big impersonal place treat you like a number?
Why get a room when you can get a Radisson? This is fun day, yours and my day. This is fun day, This is fun day.
Something happens between the weddings and birthday parties. It's called the rest of your life. That's why we created America's most popular camcorder, the Handycam, from Sony.
Yoplait, low fat, calcium rich, with active yogurt cultures. It's something 40-year-old Vicky Gentry does every day. Smooth, creamy Yoplait. Do it for you.
The actor who plays Pee Wee Herman appeared in a Florida courtroom today. A clean-shaven Paul Reubens pleaded no contest to a charge of indecent exposure. He had long hair and a beard last July when he was arrested outside an adult movie theater in Sarasota. Under a plea bargain deal, Reubens will not have a permanent criminal record. In return, he'll pay $135 in fines and court costs and make an anti-drug public service announcement.
William Kennedy Smith today publicly criticized the prosecutor in his sexual battery trial. During recess, Smith told reporters he thinks the prosecutor is incompetent. That's a term the prosecutor had used to describe a prospective juror. That prospective juror was a 78-year-old woman who made salty remarks in the courtroom about the Kennedy family. Later, the woman said she was offered a gift in exchange for a TV interview. So Smith's attorneys quickly asked that cameras be banned from the courtroom. The judge ruled cameras can remain. She also ordered that the names of potential jurors be withheld from the news media from now on until the jurors are excused or the jury is sequestered.
The First Amendment right to gather the news is not an absolute right. It is conditioned on the rights under the Sixth Amendment.
Short of Your Honor conducting this trial in a cave somewhere and closing the entire trial, the media is going to be reporting on what happens during jury selection.
There is a danger here to the defendant's right to a fair trial. And as a limited measure, as an alternative to other measures available, I will not be allowing the jury room to notify members of the media of the identity of the actual individuals who are brought over here for interview.
Smith is charged with sexual battery of a woman in Palm Beach.
Delta Airlines is denying that it asked highly personal questions of flight attendants applying for jobs. Delta bought many of Pan Am's routes last summer and has hired several thousand former Pan Am attendants. The newspaper New York Newsday reports some former Pan Am flight attendants say they were asked about birth control and sexual preference during interviews with Delta. They were also reportedly asked if they'd been treated for AIDS or depression. Delta speculates the report might be sour grapes by flight attendants who were not hired.
The chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee wants to take from the rich and give to the average American. Representative Dan Rostenkowski and House Majority Leader Richard Gephardt introduced the Robin Hood-style tax plan today. The plan would give most workers a tax credit of up to $200 in each of the next 2 years. It would be funded by creating a new 35% tax bracket and imposing a 10% surcharge on millionaires.
We believe the middle class deserves a tax cut paid for by the rich. Such a reduction is overdue, will increase the purchasing power of hard-pressed families, and will activate the kind of stimulus our economy needs.
It gets the job done. If you're a middle-income American, you get a tax cut. If you're in the top 1%, you get a tax increase. No bells, no whistles, no untested economic theories or gambles. What you see is what you get.
Rostenkowski's aides say they expect no action on the plan until next year.
And coming up on Early Prime, a bizarre attack in San Francisco by a woman taking the controversial antidepressant drug Prozac.
AT&T is constantly searching for new ways to help our customers save money on long distance.
We run forecasts, look at profiles, we do comparisons.
And what we've recently discovered is remarkably simple.
We just got the airline tickets, so...
Those customers who spend over $11 a month on long distance could start saving right away by signing up for the AT&T Reach Out America plan. If you spend over $11 a month, you could save on long distance too. All it takes is one call to 1-800-547-8600.
AT&T, this is Terry. How can I help you?
Hi, Terry. I was wondering if you could help us save some money on our long-distance calls.
This is about people. We have to put ourselves in the customer's place.
Why don't you tell me a little about the way you use long distance?
Well, we make long-distance calls all day long.
You'll learn how you could save 24 hours a day. 25% on calls made after 5 p.m.
Customers say 25% is a pretty good chunk.
And enjoy discounts on daytime calls.
I guess you could say we're pretty good customers.
Who are you talking to?
Terry, would you mind repeating that?
The Reach Out America plan is so easy to use because it helps you save when you call without changing the way you call.
The phone and be able to call your relatives, your loved ones, and not think how much it's going to cost you.
You can save 24 hours a day. There's a 25% discount in the evening and a daytime discount as well.
My husband has a sister in Madrid that he calls sometimes.
That's perfect. The plan has a discount on calls all over the world.
What about AT&T calling cards? We each have one.
No problem. The plan lets you save on calls wherever you are.
If you spend over $11 a month on long distance, AT&T can help you save. So call us now at 1-800-547-8600.
Good enough for me.
Thank you for calling AT&T.
Honey, that sounded pretty good. Why don't we sign up?
We just did.
Great. Who do we call?
Call AT&T right now for a special limited time offer from Reach Out America.
CNN has learned that basketball star Magic Johnson of the Los Angeles Lakers will announce today he is suffering from AIDS-related illness. Los Angeles Lakers officials would not confirm or deny that report. A friend of the athlete told CNN, quote, "Magic Johnson has AIDS. It is the end of his career," unquote. The Lakers had scheduled a news conference for 6 p.m. Eastern Time. CNN will provide live coverage. Once again, Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today he is suffering from an AIDS-related illness.
A California woman has been arrested for cannibalizing her elderly mother. Police were called to the home after a fight there yesterday. They arrested Barbara Mortensen, who moved in 3 months ago to care for her 87-year-old mother. Mildred Mortensen had been hospitalized. She is in critical condition. Police found blood on the carpet and blood on the walls in the house. They say they found the older woman bleeding profusely from bite wounds, and the daughter's face and gown were bloodstained.
The officers found what they thought at the time to be human bites on the torso of the elderly woman. Various disfiguring wounds on her face and arms and torso, part of her body.
The daughter told police she'd been taking Prozac, an antidepressant drug which some say induces violence, but FDA hearings have concluded there is no credible evidence which links Prozac to violent behavior.
Pfizer Incorporated reportedly is investigating apparently falsified records of its sometimes defective heart valves. The CC heart valves were pulled from the market in 1986 after 300 people died. The Wall Street Journal says Pfizer has discovered a phantom welder at the subsidiary. The newspaper says the person listed as re-welding the valves was not even working at the company at the time.
New federal surveys show that smoking is down. The Centers for Disease Control says smoking is at its lowest level ever. It's fallen to 28% of adults. The bad news, those who do start smoking are starting younger and younger. The report also found that the least educated Americans smoke the most.
Coming up in our next medical report at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 0000 GMT, the frustrating wait for medical care. We'll take a look at a place where the wait can stretch more than a year and find out why some people say you can die before you ever get an appointment.
News from Medicine is brought to you by Bristol-Myers Squibb Company, makers of Theragran M, high-potency multivitamins with minerals.
Theragran wants to know. Changed my life. Not much. With Theragran M, multivitamins with minerals, fine-tuned for the way you live.
We'll have the details next in CNN Headline Sports.
Highlights from the NCAA basketball tournament.
Catch the latest sports news, updated at 20 and 50 minutes after every hour on CNN Headline News. Anytime, all the time.
Presto has a great idea.
Shoot some slices, shoot some shreds, shoot some salad, salad shooter.
Now, Presto has a great big idea. Professional salad shooter slicer shredder. Big capacity, holds a lot, shoots a lot. Powerful, fast, a variety of cutting blades so you can point and slice thick, slice thin, shred right into the bowl, even ripple cut. Chop, grate right where you want. Clean up easy, dishwasher safe, store anywhere.
Salad shooter.
Original, cordless, now professional salad shooter.
Power. Applied intelligently, its effects are magnificent. Witness the Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme. Powered by the world's largest 24-valve V6 engine and an electronic transmission. It's a car designed to provide a more intelligent standard of performance, measured not simply in miles per hour, but by a slightly different gauge, miles per gallon. Oldsmobile, the power of intelligent engineering.
Witnesses at a congressional hearing say that a government plan to save money has backfired in the faces of retired government workers. A law passed in 1977 reduces Social Security benefits for widows and widowers who also have their own pension from public employment. The idea to prevent people from collecting a double government benefit through spousal benefits and through a pension plan. But the result for many elderly women has been poverty. Several testified today that the offset plan means they can't make ends meet. Representative Mary Rose Okar says it is time to change a bad law.
Many of the victims are women
women who have access to a spousal benefit, women who have access to their own government pension have the pension reduced on an average of $300 a month. Why should a woman who has access to a pension totaling $800, two pensions totaling $800, have one of them reduced by $300 and have to live on $500 a month as opposed to the $800 a month?
OCAR is introducing legislation to reverse the 1977 law.
Making a point about legal rights may make a homeless New Jersey man a great deal more prosperous. CNN's Norma Quarles has the story.
In Morristown, New Jersey, population 17,000, almost everyone knows Richard Kramer. He's a man who's lived in this town all his life, homeless for the last 10 years.
I'm homeless because I had some severe family problems over the past 10 years that I don't publicize. I've had some medical problems, physical problems from living on the streets and other things, and I certainly have had economic problems.
Kramer has also had legal problems.
They told me I couldn't vote in New Jersey because of Title 19, which said you couldn't vote unless you had a domicile, which means you couldn't vote unless you had a place to live. So I said, what kind of garbage is that?
Under the threat of being sued, the state gave in and changed its policy to permit the homeless to vote. Then Kramer took on the library.
They started enacting policies and rules in 1989 that said that you couldn't sit and think, that you couldn't go in if your appearance wasn't too good, if your hygiene wasn't too good, if your clothes wasn't too good, you know, if you didn't look too good, and that's totally discriminatory.
A federal judge agreed and told the library to eliminate those rules of conduct.
Now, I really have no recourse if someone comes into this library and spends 8 to 10 hours a day and in the building, but never picks up a book, does nothing but pace from room to room to room.
Kramer then took on the Morristown police and town officials, charging them with harassment.
Police would, you know, harass homeless people, move them along at night, rouse them from where they may sleep. I didn't think that that was right. I didn't think that that was morally right.
The town, facing legal bills of $250,000 from Kramer's lawsuits, offered a settlement.
The amount of $150,000 is hereby approved by the town of Morristown. The settlement is intended to and does cover all claims.
I didn't see anything the town's guilty of, but you don't know what a jury would say.
They're settling with me because they know damn well that if it went to court, I would win based on the merits of the case.
Kramer says he'll use the money to get off the streets, and he hopes to speak for the homeless at the Democratic National Convention. Norma Quarles, CNN, Morristown, New Jersey.
It literally is instant cash, and quite a number of U.S. consumers are finding it in their mailboxes lately. But as CNN's Kathleen Behoff reports, some learn too late that if they spend it now, they'll pay, and pay later.
The average consumer has 4 credit cards, but that's still not enough for banks and finance companies. They want consumers to borrow even more, and they're inundating consumers with instant cash checks. One promotion reads, "Chances are you can always find a way to put extra money to use, special purchases, car repairs, new clothes, bills." But like credit cards, this type of borrowing is exorbitantly expensive. 18%, 19%, and in some cases 21%. Meanwhile, banks charge only 7.5% for loans to its best corporate customers.
It's amazing that consumers would choose to use that check writing ability to consolidate accounts and to pay off those balances on other cards at 18, 19, 20% interest rate.
One reason why consumers may jump too quickly at these type of loans is that some financial institutions bury the interest rate for these loans in very small print, while others fail to mention the interest rate at all. Consumer advocates say customers should be leery of promotions that don't spell out the costs in plain English.
According to most all consumer credit laws, in most jurisdictions, you should be able to read a document that makes an offer to you and understand exactly what your obligations are.
Unless consumers realize this type of borrowing costs dearly, instant cash could turn into a credit headache. Kathleen Behoff, CNN Business News, Chicago.
Some people in Texas are working to take the boredom out of defensive driving school. Instead of 8 hours of hardcore lessons, Texas leadfoots are relearning the rules of the road with a lighthearted touch. CNN's Mike Capps explains.
In Texas alone last year, state troopers issued almost 800,000 speeding tickets.
Good morning, violators. How are you? No,
Speeders make up most of the crowd at the Comedy Defensive Driving School. Many took defensive driving before, either to purge traffic records or for decreased insurance rates. Faced with 8 hours of classroom work, they don't want to be bored.
The idea behind it was that if we could make it more entertaining, then people would, number one, want to be here. Number two, retain the information a lot better, because it's not like you're in a hostage-type situation.
It's not just a laugh, you know. I mean, we're here to teach people corrective actions when they come into hazardous situations.
And we're only going to do like 58 of these, so play along.
The teachers, stand-up comics, state-certified driving safety instructors.
Yes, sir.
Unlike serious counterparts, mundane comes alive comedically.
Come on, man, let's hurry up.
A normally boring road sign recognition lecture turns into a version of win, lose, or draw, with candy as a reward.
They keep it funny and you are paying attention. I think you really will learn something.
You tap on your... He goes down...
The concept itself is not unique. Similar schools opened in California 10 years ago.
So you're driving next to him thinking this person deserves to die, aren't you?
While the insurance industry has no statistics indicating these schools actually improve driving records, one industry official applauds the effort.
They take a lighthearted approach, but yet get over the basic information, and people are able to retain that. I think it's probably a good idea.
He just took the average of when you skidded by him.
The laughs and information continue. Comedian instructor Robert Hawkins keeps students laughing and learning while describing the proper way to deal with a tailgater.
You want to really make somebody mad, obey the traffic laws. Right? You go through a yellow light, and you slow down to stop. The guy behind you, what the heck are you doing? Yellow, moron, yellow. It means go, go. Then you can sit there and say, I'm superior to you.
It's entertainment. It's definitely worth the money, and you know, if it'll get you out of a ticket too, the break in insurance, you can't beat it.
When the laughs end, the students must pass a mandatory test on traffic safety laws and procedures in order to clear driving records. While defensive driving school perhaps never will be extremely popular, drivers fill these classes. Comedy Defensive Driving School plans expansion, perhaps to other states. Mike Capps, CNN, Dallas.
And still ahead on CNN Early Prime, it's been an active day on Wall Street. We'll tell you how the Dow ended the day.
We'll look at the one way elderly homeowners can solve one of the most serious cash flow problems without giving up their homes. More ahead, but first a commercial opportunity for our local cable operators.
Some people don't know it, but they're paying too much in taxes. Take these two, identical in many ways. Similar homes, similar income, similar investments. But one could be paying 28% more tax on his savings and investment income. That's over $200 on every $800 earned. The other called Fidelity Investments toll-free and found out how to invest tax-free in this free fact kit on Fidelity tax-free funds. It shows you how to earn income that's 100% free from federal income taxes. And in some states, your income may be free from state and local taxes, too. And there's no sales charge, which means all your money is working for you. So call for your free fact kit on Fidelity Investments tax-free funds. Call right now and you'll also get this bonus booklet, Understanding Tax-Free Investing. See how Fidelity gives you the facts you need to make up your own mind without pressure.
Hello, Fidelity?
Keep more of what you earn. Call 1-800-3284-100 today. Fidelity Investments, common sense, uncommon results.
Early Prime continues, followed in 1 hour by Showbiz Today, here on CNN.
From the flying aces of World War I to the space-age technology of Desert Storm, the true heroes are the men who fight the war and the machines that carry them into battle. The technical evolution of modern warfare. Brute force.
Now playing on pay-per-view, from Oliver Stone comes The Doors, and Alec Baldwin tries his hand as the marrying man. Pay-per-view is your living room video store where you can see Hollywood's latest hits with no advance reservations, return trips, or late fees. Quick and convenient, it's home entertainment made easy. Simply order a first-run hit now playing on your pay-per-view channel and get billed only for what you choose to watch. Pay-per-view, where the view keeps getting better. Call now to order.
This is CNN.
Updating our top stories, CNN has learned that basketball star Magic Johnson of the Los Angeles Lakers will announce today that he is suffering from AIDS-related illness. Los Angeles Lakers officials will not confirm or deny that report. A friend of the athlete told CNN, quote, "Magic Johnson has AIDS. It is the end of his career," unquote. The Lakers have scheduled a news conference for 6 p.m. Eastern Time. CNN will provide live coverage. Once again, Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today that he is suffering from AIDS-related illness. These other stories in the news: the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission announces a $4 million settlement in an age discrimination suit against the state of Mississippi. The settlement stems from a lawsuit involving the age-based retirement of employees of the Mississippi State Tax Commission. The U.S. Senate passes a bill to overturn the administration-backed ban on abortion counseling at federally funded clinics. The tally was 72 to 25. That's enough to override an expected veto by President Bush. The House has okayed the measure too, but its vote fell short of the two-thirds majority needed for a veto override. Actress Jean Tierney, best known for her title role performance in the movie Laura, has died at her home in Houston. She was 70. While the one-time Academy Award nominee had suffered from emphysema, the cause of her death was not immediately announced.
Well, it has been a good day for the blue chips today on Wall Street.
Let's get the latest now from New York.
Thanks, Cheryl. Jonathan, the Treasury holds a successful bond auction today. The government sold $12 billion worth of 30-year bonds, the average yield coming in at 8% even. That is better than Wall Street had expected, and those results creating strong demand for the current 30-year bond, up almost 1 point in price, the yield tumbling to 7.91%. The stock market investors also getting some encouragement from today's auction. That and strong gains in market leader IBM lifting the market. The Dow Industrials ending the day up 15 2/3 points at 30.54. In heavy trading volume, 205 million shares changing hands. The New York Stock Exchange Composite Index up 1.84. The Standard & Poor's 500 up 3 3/4 points. The American Exchange up 1 2/3, and the NASDAQ Index of over-the-counter stocks finishing at a new record up 5.80. The stock market boosted in part by strength in retail issues. That after the nation's largest chain store released stronger than expected October sales figures. The largest retailer, Walmart, once again coming out on top. Sales there rose 9%. Kmart and Sears also posting gains, but sales fell at JCPenney and Woolworth. Walmart stock jumped on that report and a 25% increase in third-quarter earnings. Kmart and Sears also rose. Today's market movers, IBM rallying 3 1/4 points. Big Blue's chairman says the fourth quarter will be the year's best. McDonnell Douglas picking up 1 1/8. Analysts say the company is planning to split its Douglas aircraft division in 2 parts in an attempt to attract an overseas buyer. Oil concern, Total among the most active issues, gaining 1 1/8 points. The French state-owned company late yesterday said it raised its stake in one of Argentina's oil fields by 20%. Triton Energy up 4 3/4 points on speculation of a bigger-than-expected oil find in Bogota, Colombia. The White House putting pressure on federal bank examiners to loosen lending restrictions. New guidelines are being drawn up by bank regulators to help relieve the credit crunch.
What we're trying to do is make absolutely certain that we don't have any cases where the examiner is going out following policies that truly are not the agency's policies and thus inhibiting credit in that way. I mean, that's really the purpose of this.
The new guidelines call for looser lending to commercial real estate developers. More Americans applying for unemployment benefits for the first time. New jobless claims up by 14,000 in the latest reporting period. In the previous week, first claims fell by more than 40,000. Many elderly Americans own their homes but lack the cash to live there comfortably because of taxes and maintenance. But there is a solution. Deborah Marchini reports in today's edition of Your Money.
There's a way elderly parents can get cash out of their homes without getting out of their homes. They can sell the house to the children and lease it back. The sale and lease back provides parents with a chunk of cash. If the parents finance the purchase, the monthly payments made by the children should more than cover the rent. And though the parents will have to pay taxes on any profit, if they're over 55, they can keep the first $125,000 tax-free. What's in it for the children? Well, first, they get the house, though not right away. Second, if they earn less than $150,000 annually, they can treat the house as a rental property and deduct all the costs from their taxes. It will also help them with their tax bill later.
The children, because the transfer is already taxed during mom and dad's lifetime, benefit because they don't have to pay the tax when mom and dad dies.
Perhaps most important, the children will get the pleasure of helping elderly parents enjoy their retirement. But beware, the first thing a sale and leaseback requires is a good lawyer. It's a complex transaction that must be put together properly to confer any tax benefits at all. That's Your Money. Deborah Marchini, CNN Business News, New York.
And finally, this reminder to join us tonight for Moneyline with Lou Dobbs. We'll have a complete wrap-up of today's business news. That's at 7 and 11:30 Eastern Time. Once again, the Dow gains 15 points on the day. I'm Beverly Shook reporting from the New York Stock Exchange.
Thanks, Bev. In Rhode Island, police are searching a gravesite for the bodies of a missing family. They're digging in a wooded area not far from the home of attorney Ernst Brendel and his wife, Alice. The couple and their young daughter have been missing from their Barrington home for 7 weeks. Officials refuse to say whether any bodies were found. And coming up on Early Prime, are TV shows and cartoons carrying a sexist message to children? We'll tell you what some TV executives are doing to change those messages.
Jim Huber will have more on the Magic Johnson story.
And 52 record-setting low temperatures last night, again, for many cities, the third night in a row that they've set record lows. Weather details later in the half hour.
In Switzerland, Ricola has been soothing sore throats and relieving coughs naturally for over 60 years. Ricola is a blend of 10 organically grown alpine herbs and natural flavors, providing pleasant-tasting natural relief. Ricola, the natural choice for soothing sore throats and relieving coughs naturally.
In many ways, it looks and feels like nothing we have ever built. In many ways, it looks and feels like everything we've ever built.
Bob Nickel knows a little French cafe where the food is magnifique, but the bill isn't. Now, where do you suppose he'd rent a car? Budget, where he finds the most luxury Lincolns, over 3,500 locations worldwide, and very tasteful prices. The smart money is on Budget. Right now, rent 2 days and get the third day free on compact through full-size cars at participating Budget locations. Call for details. The smart money is on Budget.
On CNN tonight, does it violate separation of church and state? Prayer in public school in the crossfire. Then later, author Norman Mailer and actor Robert Stack visit Larry King. All tonight on CNN.
You're about to see some award-winning Lips. A company that makes lip care products has matched up some famous names with lip accomplishments. For example, there is Norman Schwarzkopf, whose lips fought off the hot desert sun during the Gulf War. The retired general was named the person with the most engulfed lips. Get it? In honor of her recent hit song, singer Natalie Cole was chosen as having the most unforgettable lips. And actress Julia Roberts was chosen as the person with the most wanted lips. Agree with all of those choices?
Absolutely.
Okay. Have some serious news to report today.
Yeah, really sad, unfortunate, devastating news. The Los Angeles Lakers, as we have been telling you, have called a press conference for 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Sources tell CNN it will be to announce the retirement of veteran All-Pro guard Magic Johnson, though the club would neither confirm nor deny that. CNN will carry the press conference live, again beginning at 6 o'clock Eastern. CNN has learned that Johnson is suffering from AIDS-related illness. A friend of the athlete told CNN, quote, Magic Johnson has AIDS. It is the end to his career, unquote. Johnson has not played in a game this season, a victim of what the club called dehydration from the flu after the Lakers' preseason trip to Paris. He is a 3-time league most valuable player in 1987, 89, and 90. All NBA every season since 1983. One of the most captivating, enduring, electric players in league history. In fact, he and Larry Bird, who came into the league together back in 1979 as rookies, are generally credited with turning a crumbling NBA into what most now see as the most successful pro sports league today. We will again carry that press conference from Los Angeles live, beginning at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. Meanwhile, as one legend leaves us, another comes a-calling, though exactly when Eric Lindros will make his long-awaited debut in the NHL isn't known yet. But one thing is sure, as our Tom Kirkland reports in part 2 of his series, Lindros will have an impact wherever.
Ever since Eric Lindros was sock-high to his hockey skates, he's been a cut above. Too savvy to discuss his own stardom these days, but to understate it, the hard work's paying off.
With time and with practice, I know, you know, it's anything's possible. And I think with that sort of mindset, it makes life a challenge.
From the tender age of 15, his every move's been monitored, every word recorded. His every action's created reaction throughout Canada. And now at 18, Eric Lindros is part of the biggest contract squabble in professional sport. He won't play for the NHL's Quebec Nordique, and they refuse to trade away his rights. And to think, all this began as a mother's attempt to power down her son.
He had a lot of energy, and all the kids on the street were joining this little Red Circle house league, little down the corner league. So, you know, I thought, well, maybe he'd be tired at night, you know, if he skated for a couple hours. Maybe this is a good thing.
It grew to be a great thing. Endless hours on the family's backyard rink polished his skills. By 9, Eric had learned to score and thirst for more.
Oh, I got 132 goals last year, so I want to beat that.
Now there's man-sized talent inside his mammoth body, yet not so deep within the child still sparkles. This part-time job in junior hockey pays Lindros about $40 a week, but the toys are free.
Coach's son was there and brought the trucks along, and sometimes playing with the trucks is a whole lot more interesting than a Saturday morning practice. When you get in the bus at 3 o'clock in the morning, so you got to do what you have to do.
He's already authored an autobiography, earns more than $500,000 a year from endorsement deals, and Lindros will keep busy playing for Canada in the Winter Olympics. He insists on remaining a teenager, palling around with his friends. For now, happy to steer clear of adult responsibilities. So all the fortune and fame of the NHL can wait.
Everyone up there is talking about putting baby seats in their Porsches, and, you know, oh Christ, this nipple broke last night and milk went everywhere, all over the kid, and my God, my suit is ruined. You know, I mean, all these problems they're having, and I don't have to deal with them. You know, I don't have to hear them. I mean, I have to hear about, well, I didn't get a ride to school today, Coach. I'm sorry I missed first class, you know. So it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole different road of life.
Surely for Lindros, this road, less traveled, won't go on for long. In Toronto, Tom Kirkland, CNN Sports.
What an athlete. Again, a reminder, the Lakers press conference live here on CNN at 6 o'clock Eastern, reportedly to announce the retirement of Magic Johnson, though that has neither been confirmed nor denied. Jonathan.
Name a skin color, and the makers of Crayola crayons say they can match it. Crayola's flesh tone colors are now being sold separately, 8 crayons to the box. The colors were already available in the large 64 crayon box, but the Crayola people say most schools don't buy that size. The colors in the new Skin Tones of the World box are mahogany, peach, tan, sepia, burnt sienna, and apricot. Black and white, we are told, are included for shadowing. Some TV executives are pushing to change some old sexual stereotypes that linger on in children's cartoons. Their task isn't as easy as it might sound. Lauren Terry explains.
I've come at last!
That's how female characters have been portrayed in cartoons for years. Girls were passive and always getting rescued by a man.
Can you tell our home viewers what just happened here?
I'm not sure.
In the 90s, approaching the year 2000, after Ms. Magazine, after the effort to get women in the workplace, it is outrageous that we still do exactly on children's television what we used to do.
Peggy Charon leads the crusade to keep gender stereotypes out of kidvid. Studies show that kids catch on to stereotypes by age 3 or 4.
Let's go!
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reign in the ratings, and with children's programming a $300 million a year business, the proven success of a male lead is hard to shake. So we have Michael Jordan, Bo Jackson, and Wayne Gretzky, but not Chris Evert or Mary Lou Retton. But the creative community has come up with a few promising entries.
It might just give us an edge.
The Beetlejuice cartoons has girls front and center.
Pick on someone your own size.
Nickelodeon's Clarissa seems to have her priorities straight. And the Captain Planet Planeteers all report to a female boss. But progress in ridding sexism in kids' TV remains spotty. The experts still say that mom and dad should stay near the tube.
I would very definitely recommend that parents watch television with their kids, if for no other reason to present another point of view.
Says children's TV advocate Peggy Charon, until the big three come up with more female superheroes, more female funny girls, and more contemporary attitudes, it's time to pull the plug on network TV.
It is inconceivable to me that, that commercial television hasn't gotten their act together when it comes to sexism in children's programming. What are they waiting for?
Lauren Terry for CNN Entertainment News, Hollywood.
Coming up, the weather. So far, November's weather has been record-breaking. We'll see what's ahead.
The day may come when travelers don't care how much their luggage weighs. But for now, there's the Samsonite Lightweight. It's 25% lighter than the average soft-side suitcase. Because at least in the immediate future, the weight of the luggage you carry can still be a matter of some gravity. Samsonite, our strengths are legendary.
How does your Genie screwdriver door opener work?
Let me see. I'll be right back, okay?
When we hear the sound of the door, it means Dad's come home.
Once I caught a catfish about this big.
I really can't. I don't know how it turns, you know?
Kara goes in and out with her bike. Jacob's in and out. All the kids are in and out.
You got this big screw, see? And it's real long, and the thing just turns like that.
Any mom with a lot of kids could use a Genie.
Genie screwdriver, built for a lifetime.
It rotates so the door slides real quiet.
You can see the spirit in every smiling face. It's people that make the difference across the USA. Every time we fly, every mile of sky, everything we do, USA begins with you.
In 1992, they will compete against the US and Japan. But will they stop competing against each other? Hear the hopes and fears of Western Europe on a CNN special report this Sunday, 9 Eastern.
A spokesman for musician and composer Frank Zappa says Zappa is seriously ill with prostate cancer. The spokesman says the 50-year-old Zappa has been sick for some time and was forced to cancel a scheduled trip today from Los Angeles to New York. Zappa's two children, Moon and Dweezil Zappa, spoke to the media just about an hour ago.
As many of you know, he's been diagnosed by journalists as having cancer. We'd like you to know his doctors have diagnosed prostate cancer, which he's been fighting successfully. And he has been feeling well and working too hard and planned to attend. Up until the last minute, we were still hoping he would feel well enough to get on a plane and come here. There are occasional periods where he's not feeling as well, and it's really unfortunate that it happened to coincide with this event.
Frank Zappa, famed for his unorthodox approach to music, first gained attention in the 60s with his band, The Mothers of Invention.
It is cold out there, I'll tell you. I'm hoping it's getting warmer. I bet a lot of people are. Let's check in with Flip Spiceland for a look ahead.
Well, in some places in the country, but only a little warmer. We were talking about this a little bit earlier today. People saying, you know, Indian summer has to be popping around. This is much too early in the season for winter to be here. Tell you what, I don't see any change in this pattern. It looks as though the colder than normal weather is with us for some time. This is the second blast of Siberian air that's moved down from Canada across the United States. This is the leading edge of the first one. That cooled things off across the Midwest and the East, and now this one coming in and simply reinforcing it. There were 52 record-setting lows last night. Night before last, there were only about 24. Tuesday, however, there were over 100 record-setting lows. Now, the leading edge of this cold air here has some snowfall associated with it. I think by tomorrow morning we're going to see snowfall scattered about in the Ohio Valley and up into portions of New England. The lake effect snow could be a problem. But so far today, the biggest problem has been right here in Oklahoma and Arkansas, where during the daylight hours anyway, it's been a mix of freezing rain, and snow. And overnight it was just plain snow. Places like St. Louis checked in with almost 4 inches of snow. St. Joseph, Missouri had almost 5 inches of snow. Very, very hazardous conditions as far as travel is concerned, however, down here in portions of Oklahoma and Arkansas. Where is it warm? It's warm in Los Angeles. They were 90 degrees yesterday, close to that today. They'll be not quite that warm tomorrow, and by the weekend I think they'll be back close to normal temperatures, but it is still inordinately warm in Southern California when so much of the nation is shivering. Those warm temperatures of the west are slowly moving to the east. For example, Denver tomorrow will be up into the mid-60s, but if you recall last week they had highs each day only in the mid-20s. Look now at our CNN Color Radar summary. This is the area of rain and snow and freezing rain. By the way, there have been some thunder showers today just off the south coast of Florida, touching off intermittent thunderstorms and such. I checked for any heavy rainfall amounts out of that, and I really couldn't find any. Here's some of the lake effect snow that I mentioned earlier already becoming a problem, and a little disturbance off the coast of Texas, too. There is a new frontal system off the northwest coast, but so far not much rainfall out of that showing up on radar. Look now at our forecast weather map then for tomorrow. Here's that area of snowfall, as I said, filling the Ohio Valley and up into portions of New England. Up here in the snow belt area, there will be more snow overnight tonight. In the southeast, it'll still be warm enough that we will see only scattered showers, with the heavier rainfall expected to continue along the Gulf Coast of Texas. And the new front that I just mentioned moving into the northwest will have lots of rainfall associated with it, but once it moves into the higher elevations of the Rockies, it will be in the form of snow. We'll have more weather coming up a little bit later. Right now, take a look at specific forecasts for cities around the nation for tomorrow. More news, here's Cheryl.
Coming up on Early Prime, Calvin Klein's spring collection, sheer delight. We'll take a look just ahead.
You might not want to be involved in the war on drugs, but make no mistake, if you're a parent, you've been drafted. Call for a free parent's guide to drug prevention. 1-800-624-0100.
All dairies go a long way to meet high industry standards, but Quality Checked goes further, which is why more people are coming up to the fresher taste of Quality Check. Look for the check in the queue, where the fresh taste will tell you we're better, because we're better than we have to be.
America's at work with Packer America's at work with
I swim, I jog. I love junk food. Sometimes even I get constipation.
When it happens to you, X-Lax pills give you a choice. Extra gentle for a little help, regular for a little more. X-Lax, for regular people who sometimes aren't.
While President Bush was attending the NATO summit, his wife Barbara took a Roman holiday. After touring the Roman Forum, Mrs. Bush called on Italy's famed designer Valentino, and she saw an exhibit of 300 of his most famous outfits. Mrs. Bush and the wives of the other NATO leaders were invited to Valentino's for a tour of the exhibit. Afterward, the First Lady said it was like being in a fairyland.
One of the biggest names in American fashion, Calvin Klein, is out with his spring collection. CNN's Elsa Clinch takes us down the runway.
It's a light and airy spring season for New York designer Calvin Klein. He puts emphasis on transparent fabrics for both day and evening. His lengths go long or short, and his newest jackets have a cardigan shape. But the big news for spring can be summed up in one word: sheer.
Spring, suddenly you want to sense the body. You want to sense lightness. And sheer fabrics or laces or anything that you sense the body, I think becomes important. It's like a big trend now. Everyone wears sheer. At one time you'd think you'd have to have a model's body to wear it. I don't think that anymore. I think people just relate to it now. It's accepted.
How important are dresses for day?
I think dresses are really important. I love dresses. I mean, I think the dress replaces the skirt. They're feminine and they're soft and they're wonderful washed fabrics, washed silks and georgettes. And there are wrap dresses with floaty skirts. I think the dress continues to be really strong, and especially the dress under a jacket looks so right and so light and so easy for spring.
What shape are the jackets?
The news is the cardigan. I mean, it's like a cardigan goes over everything.
A knit cardigan or a woven?
No, it's a woven cardigan, but they're as soft as knits. Along with the cardigans are blazers. The blazers are really important as well. It's those 2 or 3 button blazer jackets.
It's Calvin Klein and his spring collection. Elsa Clench, CNN, New York.
No, you don't have to be a model to wear those things. That's what he said.
I believe him.
Coming up in the next half hour of Early Prime, the NATO alliance begins a process of transformation. We will have a discussion about NATO and its role in the new post-Cold War world.
Is it required? Is it redundant? Our guests will give us some insight. We'll also look at how some retired people have had their Social Security benefits cut because they used to work for the government. Those stories and more when we return after a local cable.
Early Prime continues, followed by Showbiz Today, next on CNN.
Every once in a while, a movie comes along so powerful, so original, that it should not be missed. From the award-winning author of Sooty and Simpson, Alice! Lifetime presents a film by Diane Keaton, Beau Bridges, Patricia Arquette, Wildflower, a Lifetime world premiere movie.
And I still miss someone.
It's only natural that children look to their parents for answers. So to help you explain why some things that may be fine for adults aren't right for children, Anheuser-Busch offers Family Talk, free advice from professionals to use with your kids while they're still learning to be grown up. And their favorite teacher is you. Let's stop underage drinking before it starts.
Now playing on pay-per-view. From Oliver Stone comes The Doors, and Alec Baldwin tries his hand as the marrying man. Pay-per-view is your living room video store where you can see Hollywood's latest hits with no advance reservations, return trips, or late fees. Quick and convenient. It's home entertainment made easy. Simply order a first-run hit now playing on your pay-per-view channel and get billed only for what you choose to watch. Pay-per-view, where the view keeps getting better. Call now to order.
You needed me.
To order, call toll-free 1-800-257-1257 to save all COD charges and pay only $12.98 for records or cassettes or $16.98 for compact disc, plus $3 shipping. Use your credit card or send check or money order to Anne Murray, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia. Remember, save COD charges by sending check or money order or use your credit card.
This is CNN.
Basketball superstar Magic Johnson prepares to make a stunning announcement.
The NATO allies start making some big changes at the summit in Rome. We will discuss NATO's future with two defense experts. Welcome back to Early Prime.
We'll have more on those stories in a moment, but first, the headlines. CNN has learned that Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today he has tested positive for the virus that causes AIDS. LA Lakers officials would not confirm or deny this report. A friend of the athlete told CNN, though, quote, Magic Johnson has AIDS. It is the end of his career, unquote. The Lakers have scheduled a news conference for 6 p.m. Eastern. CNN will provide live coverage. Once again, CNN has learned that LA Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today he's tested positive for the virus that causes AIDS.
Abortion rights groups are trying to set up a political showdown and make abortion a major issue in next year's elections. They are asking the U.S. Supreme Court to decide once and for all whether the Roe v. Wade decision legalizing abortion will stand or fall. They say they expect Roe v. Wade to be overturned, and they say if that happens, the voters will strike back.
We are hopeful that once the newly constituted court makes its position clear, women will once again be secure in the knowledge that abortion remains safe and legal. But if the court steps away further from its 18-year precedent and allows further erosion of the abortion rights of women and permits the states to impose restrictions on women, the American people must act vigorously and quickly to overcome this unfortunate and dangerous development.
The abortion rights groups are asking the Supreme Court to rule on the constitutionality of Pennsylvania's tough abortion law. Their appeal increases the chances that the case could be heard before next year's elections, but the timetable is uncertain. The Congress has sent President Bush a bill that would allow abortion counseling at federally funded health clinics. The president promises a veto. The Senate passed the legislation today with enough votes to override a veto. But the House, which approved the measure yesterday, did not come close to the two-thirds majority that would be needed to make it veto-proof. The abortion counseling provision is included in the $250 billion spending bill for health, education, and labor programs.
The chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee is proposing a temporary tax cut for most Americans to be paid for by higher taxes on wealthy Americans. Congressman Dan Rostenkowski's proposal would give a $200 to $400 tax break to 80% of U.S. households. It would create a new top tax rate of 35%, and it would slap millionaires with a new 10% surtax on their incomes. Aides to Rostenkowski says he doesn't expect lawmakers to take any action on his proposals until early next year. A consumer group says the interest rate paid on savings accounts continues to plummet, but the interest you pay on your credit card often remains in double digits. The Consumer Federation of America says that banks are pocketing most of the savings from declining Federal Reserve rates. At a Washington news conference, the group released a report on the widening gap between what consumers pay to banks and what they earn from banks. The group advises smart shopping.
Our advice to consumers is very simple. The best investment that you can make is to pay off your credit card balances in full, avoiding average 19% credit card rates. But if you are unable to do so, shift to a lower rate cards. There are cards out there carrying rates as low as 10%.
Their report says money market rates dropped 0.5 percentage point, CDs a full percent, but credit card rates remain unchanged.
U.S. unemployment lines are getting longer. The Labor Department says the number of people filing new claims for unemployment benefits rose by 14,000 late last month to 420,000 people.
At a hearing today on Capitol Hill, a move to right what many say is a wrong done to some retired government employees. Some want to change a law that cuts the amount of money spouses, widows, or widowers get from their partner's Social Security. More now from CNN's Francis Hart.
It seemed like a good idea when Congress reduced Social Security benefits for spouses, widows, and widowers who also had their own pension from public employment. But the effect of the so-called government pension offset is to cut many people's income to the bone.
It should be apparent to everyone that $179 each month does not allow for a good standard of living. I find it very difficult to have enough money to pay for gas, electric, food, and clothing.
In another case, a widow has had her benefits taken away because she was deemed ineligible after receiving payments for 5 years.
I am faced with a $32,132.10 overpayment.
This outstanding debt against me because of the government pension offset is overwhelming and devastating.
The pension offset works like this. Suppose a federal, state, or local government retiree is eligible for $300 a month from her own pension and $400 in Social Security benefits from her deceased husband. She does not get $700. Instead, an amount equal to 2/3 of her pension, in this case $200, is subtracted from Social Security, so she gets only $500 a month. Mary Rose Okar has introduced a bill to eliminate the pension offset.
That is so unfair. We are the only country in the industrialized world that would reduce one pension in an effort to somehow achieve fairness.
Nearly 160,000 people are affected by the offset, and the government opposes any attempt to change it.
Since 1940, when monthly benefits were first paid, Social Security has reflected the principle that a person should not get both a full Social Security benefit as a dependent and a full benefit as a worker.
Critics say the pension offset hits people especially hard in these tough economic times. And Congresswoman Okar says it also takes some of the romance out of marriage, when people realize that I do also means I will accept a lower pension when they retire. Frances Harden, CNN, Capitol Hill.
Rescuers in the Philippines are going about the task of burying the bodies of thousands of people killed in flash floods and landslides Tuesday. Officials now believe entire families perished on the central islands of Leyte and Negros, where there were most of the estimated 3,300 casualties. Tropical storm Thelma ushered in the disaster, but officials now say illegal timber cutting also contributed to the devastating landslides.
NATO leaders today invited several former Warsaw Pact nations to join them in forming a cooperative council. The invitation falls short of offering the countries full NATO membership, however. But leaders of the 16-nation group meeting in Rome say the partnership will give Eastern Europeans a Western forum. And President Bush won assurances from the group it still wants U.S. help in defending Europe. Mr. Bush also questioned a proposal for a new European defense force. Mr. Bush will hold a news conference tomorrow from Rome. CNN will carry it live starting at 8:25 a.m. Eastern.
Thousands of flag-waving communist supporters marched in Red Square today. They're celebrating the anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution. The demonstration happened even though the Soviet government canceled official ceremonies for the first time in 74 years. Marchers carried pictures of Lenin and chanted that communism is not dead. In St. Petersburg, where the Bolshevik Revolution was launched in 1917, several hundred people took part in anti-communist rallies. The city was officially rechristened St. Petersburg Wednesday. Its name was changed to Leningrad in 1924 in honor of the founder of the Soviet state.
And still to come, a discussion on the future role of the United States in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
In Florida, William Kennedy Smith has some harsh words for the prosecuting attorney as jury selection continues in his rape trial. We'll have those stories and more ahead when Early Prime returns.
When you call 1-800-4CHOICE, you get more than a great room at any Choice Hotel. You can also
bring the little buckaroos along for free at any Choice Hotel, like Econo-Lodge, Roadway, or Friendship.
That's very smart. Excite your husband at any Quality, Comfort, Clarion, or Sleep Hotel where weekend rates start at $29.
I'm excited. I get a 30% senior discount just for staying alive this long.
Would you believe they have corporate rates up to 30% off?
I can believe that.
At more than 2,500 Choice Hotels worldwide.
Unbelievable.
So you could save a fortune.
And after a life like mine, that's about the biggest thrill that I can take. But to get any of these deals, you've got to call. That's 1-800-4.
CHOICE.
I'll say that's yours, Dave.
Hey, I thought that was my line.
Bye-bye.
To get your choice of great rooms and a great deal almost anywhere, call 1-800-4CHOICE.
Dear Folgers, I was catering brunch for 950 people when I forgot the ground coffee. Then I was reminded of your restaurant commercials where people were secretly switched to Folgers Crystals. So I tried it.
Let's go.
I never received more compliments. You made a believer out of me and a lot of other people.
Folgers Crystals, proven with fresh brewed coffee drinkers.
Thanks, Folgers and American.
How about dessert from Presto Salad Shooter?
Shoot some slices, salad shooter.
Point and shoot right into dessert or fruit salad.
Shoot some shreds, salad shooter.
For chocolatey, nutty dessert toppings.
Shoot it fast, shoot it neat, shoot it pretty. Pretty salad shooter.
Presto Salad Shooter Slicer Shredder. Clean up easy, dishwasher safe, small enough to store anywhere. Great salads and much, much more.
Salad shooter.
Original, cordless, rechargeable, and now professional salad shooter.
On CNN today, they're the majority of the U.S. population, but who are the middle class on the world today? Then on Moneyline, TWA Chairman Carl Icahn. All today on CNN.
We want to repeat again the news that we've been reporting to you that Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today apparently that he has tested positive for the virus that causes AIDS. With us on the phone now is sports writer Michael Kaplan. With us live now is sports writer Michael Kaplan, who has hopefully some more details on this tragedy that we're learning about right now. Michael?
Cheryl, I'm at the Forum Club in the Great Western Forum. This is the home of the Lakers, and I'm with a large group of stunned media here. Expecting the news about Magic Johnson. I walked through the parking lot a little while ago. There are people out there, just people who have come to the forum who have heard about this. This is a shockwave that's gone all through Los Angeles. They're sitting out there in stunned silence. I walked in the door with Commissioner David Stern of the NBA, so he has come here for this announcement. And it is expected in less than an hour that we will get the announcement that, in fact, Magic Johnson has tested HIV positive and will announce his retirement. Now, he returned from a road game in the preseason in Utah a couple weeks ago, and it was labeled as an unspecified illness. It was later called the flu. He's missed the first 3 games of the season. He was given the okay to go back to practice on Monday, but he's complained of stamina, dehydration, and I guess in less than an hour, we're going to find out the reason.
Thank you. Michael Kaplan reporting to us from California. The Lakers have scheduled a news conference, as Michael mentioned, for 6 p.m. Eastern Time, and CNN will provide live coverage of that. John?
The NATO allies are meeting in Rome to plot the course for the alliance's future. And joining us to discuss what that course might and should be, Senator Carl Levin of Michigan. He's a member of the Armed Services Committee and chairman of the subcommittee that oversees matters relating to the alliance. Also joining us, William Van Cleve with the Center for Defense and Strategic Studies at Southwest Missouri State University. He is also an advisor to the International Security Council, a Washington think tank. Both guests join us from our Washington studios. Let's start with you, Senator. The continent of Europe, or take the European community, has more people than the United States. It has a more powerful economy, a richer economy than the United States. Simple question, why should U.S. taxpayers pay at this moment in time to support the defense of a continent that doesn't look like it's going to have a war?
Well, we're paying far too much, and some of us have been fighting to reduce that payment. We still spend over $100 billion each year for the defense of Europe, which I believe is more than the Europeans spend in their own defense. So the battle around here has been and is going to continue to be, to some of us, to try to get that expenditure down to what is a far lower level, because American taxpayers cannot and should not be expected to spend that kind of money. We still have almost 300,000 troops in Europe, and we're going down to a lower number. We're going down far too slowly, and we're not going down far enough. We should leave a residual force there at a much lower level to participate and contribute to European defense against the new kinds of threats.
Let me bring in William Van Cleve here and push my devil's advocacy even further. Tell me, if you would, what the problem would be if tomorrow morning NATO simply didn't exist anymore and all those servicemen and women were in the United States and all that money was in the United States too.
Well, that money and those servicemen won't be in the United States. They will simply have to vanish. As a matter of fact, it's far cheaper to keep our forces over in Europe, as it is in Korea and Japan, than it would be to bring them back to the United States and build the bases and maintain them here. But the wisdom and the success of keeping this American military presence in Western Europe for the past 4 decades is manifestly clear, and it would be a terrible mistake to remove it or to reduce it real substantially today.
It is nonetheless going to change dramatically in the years ahead. Already former members of the Warsaw Pact, the very countries that NATO was created to fight, are asking to come onto our side, to join NATO. Senator, what's going to happen? I mean, already there's talk of this cooperative council. What do you make of that?
Well, I think we're going to tell the Eastern European nations that we welcome them in some new form of arrangement. As a matter of fact, NATO has succeeded. We ought to celebrate that success. Indeed, for 4 decades, we've spent an awful lot of money and led the way so it would succeed, but we've won. And the threat has changed dramatically. We no longer have this threat of a surprise attack against Western Europe. There are other threats which are emerging. But that threat, which caused such a huge expenditure of money and personnel, is disappeared, and we ought to respond to it. And a new NATO should be created which will respond to the newer kinds of threats, which are much smaller threats, which require smaller units to respond more quickly in different parts of Europe and the Middle East.
Well, let's go to Mr. Van Cleve now. Let's talk about a new NATO. Can you imagine a NATO that would have had a very different kind of role in Iraq or in Panama or in any of the disputes that the United States has been involved in recently? It seems like NATO, Yugoslavia these days, NATO is pretty well irrelevant.
I don't think it's irrelevant at all. We certainly needed our NATO allies when it came to the war with Iraq. We certainly needed the equipment and the bases that we had in that particular area, and I think we'll continue to need them in the future.
So what's the NATO of the future going to look like, NATO 5 years from now?
Well, the NATO of the future will indeed be changed. That's clear. It's our policy. It's NATO's policy. The military forces and establishments will be reduced, but they must not disappear. There's too much at stake there. We have a good political military partnership worked out. We have joint exercises. We have bases in the area together. The United States presence is a stabilizing force. NATO simply cannot change overnight from a military structure to a political structure, and it can't remain a military political structure without the United States. Otherwise, it's not the transatlantic alliance any longer. We might expand it to give some associate membership to the Central European or Eastern European states, and that would be fine, but it must remain a transatlantic partnership.
Senator Levin, there's another alliance that's going on now, or that's building up, and that is the French-German alliance. There's talk now of an army, a common army to those two longtime enemies. Does that make any sense in the NATO alliance? Does it make any sense at all, do you think?
I don't think it makes an awful lot of sense, but if the French and the Germans want to do it, and if, that's okay with me, if that's their decision. I don't think that's what the Europeans want. I think they want a much more multinational effort than just having the French and the Germans come together in one army. But one comment I should make, and that is that we're closing bases in the United States at great cost. So we have bases available for troops which we bring home from Europe. And the housing costs in Europe are tremendous. There's families there which have to be housed. And at the same time that we're paying to keep almost 300,000 troops in Europe and reducing that at too slow a pace, we are actually closing bases here in the United States, which I believe could and should be used to house some of those people here rather than over there.
Well, we've got some big decisions ahead. A lot of money is going to be spent in the meantime. Senator Carl Levin of Michigan, we thank you for joining us. And strategic studies analyst William Van Cleve. Thank you once again. Both gentlemen joined us from our Washington studios. Cheryl?
While President Bush was attending a NATO meeting in Rome today, First Lady Barbara Bush got a taste of ancient Rome culture. Mrs. Bush toured the Roman Forum and the Capitoline museums. She was accompanied by the First Ladies of Canada, Greece, and Spain. Right around the corner on Early Prime, Mississippi settles a multi-million-dollar age discrimination lawsuit out of court. Also, actor Paul Reubens gets his day in court for an X-rated adventure.
We will take the decisions that will enable our alliance to develop to the full its potential as a partner in cooperation with.
The following scenes may be unsuitable for sensitive viewers. They are the forgotten, these poor, hungry, sick children of the world. These despairing and dying children. They need help so urgently. But what does it cost to fight disease, malnutrition, starvation? How much does it cost to keep a child alive? The figure is almost unbelievable. It's only 70 cents a day. For 70 cents a day, you can make sure a child gets well and gets a chance. Start by calling this toll-free number right now. You'll receive a free information video and more from Christian Children's Fund. For just 70 cents a day, only $21 a month, you'll make sure a sick child can finally see a doctor for diagnosis and treatment. 70 cents provides a hungry child 3 nourishing meals and clean drinking water every day. 70 cents gives a child who wants to learn the clothing and books and opportunity to go to school. Please call today. There's no obligation. Within 10 days, you'll receive your free video plus information on one child who needs you. As a CCF sponsor, you could help turn life around for a child who, just because of chance, had no future. You'll also be helping his family and community to help themselves improve their quality of life. For over 50 years, CCF has been where the need is. Today, CCF is helping over 500,000 children of all faiths. But there are still 40,000 children dying every day from hunger and preventable diseases. The greater tragedy is it doesn't have to keep happening. These children can be helped because the cost of fighting disease, malnutrition, starvation is only 70 cents a day. It can literally mean the difference between life and death to a child. Give a child a chance. Please call today for your free video.
Thank you very much. Well, as we reported at the top of the hour, CNN has learned that Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today he's tested positive for the virus that causes AIDS. LA Lakers officials would not confirm or deny the report. A friend of the athlete told CNN, though, quote, Magic Johnson has AIDS. It is the end of his career, end quote. The Lakers have scheduled a news conference that's at 6 p.m. Eastern. CNN will provide live coverage. Once again, CNN has learned that LA Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today he's tested positive for the virus that causes AIDS.
The state of Mississippi has agreed to pay $4 million to settle an age discrimination suit. The Equal Employment Opportunity Commission says the payment resolves a 1983 lawsuit filed by 59 enforcement officers who were forced to retire because of their age. The $4 million payment covers back pay and benefits plus interest.
A New York newspaper reports that former Pan Am flight attendants interviewing for jobs with Delta have been questioned about their personal lives. New York Newsday reports at least 200 attendants say they fielded questions ranging from their sexual preferences to what kind of birth control they use. New York officials say if that's true, the questions would be illegal under New York City law. Delta says such questions are against company policy and that they've seen no facts to back up the charges.
We ask, can you give us a name of anybody that asked these irresponsible questions? Just give us a name. No, there's nothing there. Well, give us a name of someone who says that they had these irresponsible questions asked. There is no fact. The newspaper that broke the story, even in its article, said there was no factual evidence.
Delta brought many of the Pan Am international, or rather bought many of Pan Am's international flights originating in New York. The carrier has already hired about 2,000 former Pan Am flight attendants.
The actor who plays Pee Wee Herman agreed to the terms of a plea bargain today in Florida. Paul Reubens was charged with indecent exposure after being arrested by undercover detectives in a pornography theater last summer. He pleaded no contest to the charges and agreed to pay a $50 fine plus court costs. Reubens is also required to produce an anti-drug public service commercial. He will have no permanent record once he fulfills the term of the agreement.
Time now for a look at the markets. Jan Hopkins joins us from the Business News Desk in New York. Jan?
Thanks, Jonathan. The bond market got a pleasant surprise today. The last but not least leg of the Treasury's quarterly refunding, meeting with strong demand. The average yield on the $12 billion worth of 30-year bonds coming in at a better than expected 8% even. The Treasury's current 30-year bond rallying following those results, up almost a point in price and a yield falling back to 7.91%. Stock prices also getting a lift from that better-than-expected auction. The Dow Jones Industrial Average finished with a 15-point gain, closing at 3,054. Big board volume was heavy, 205 million shares changing hands. The Dow also got a lift from IBM stock. It rose 3 1/4 to close at 99 7/8, gaining on news that it will team up with Intel to produce microprocessors. The broader and the secondary markets also closed higher. The NASDAQ index of over-the-counter stocks posting a record high. That's the latest in business news. I'm Jan Hopkins in New York.
And coming up, he is one of the last major heroes of World War II. But old soldiers don't always fade away. That's just ahead when Early Prime continues.
I swim, I jog. I love junk food. Sometimes even I get constipation.
When it happens to you, X-Lax pills give you a choice. Extra gentle for a little help, regular for a little more. X-Lax, for regular people who sometimes aren't.
We're about to prove a simple point. On the left, a steak wrapped in saran wrap. On the right, both Reynolds and Glad wraps. Now, knowing a tiger won't eat what a tiger can't smell, which one do you think holds in odor and freshness better? Saran wrap.
On CNN tonight, does it violate separation of church and state? Prayer in public school in the crossfire. Then later, author Norman Mailer and actor Robert Stack visit Larry King. All tonight on CNN.
Friday, the Bucks, the Hornets. Give me 5. And the #1 draft pick, Larry Johnson. Oh, yes! The NBA on TNT. Friday at 8. Bigger than life.
Once again, a saddening, surprising story. CNN has learned that Los Angeles Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today he's tested positive for the virus that causes AIDS. LA Lakers officials wouldn't confirm or deny the report, but a friend of the athlete told CNN, quote, Magic Johnson has AIDS and it is the end of his career. The Lakers have scheduled a news conference for 6 p.m. Eastern. CNN will be providing live coverage. Once again, CNN has learned LA Lakers basketball star Magic Johnson will announce today he's tested positive for the virus that causes AIDS.
He jumped behind enemy lines with his D-Day troops and took over a troubled army in the Korean War. Today, retired General Matthew Ridgway was honored with a Congressional Gold Medal. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Colin Powell, presented Ridgway with the medal at the retired general's suburban Pittsburgh home. At 96 years old, Ridgway is the last surviving prominent general from World War II. Senator Sam Nunn and Strom Thurmond assisted in presenting Ridgway with the Combat Infantryman's Badge, an award usually reserved for enlisted men who served at the front. Ridgway says the badge was the only decoration he ever coveted and wanted.
And speaking of matters military, there's an old military saying that loose lips sink ships, but the military never said anything about nice lips. Good thing, too. General Norman Schwarzkopf tops a new list of people with the most beautiful lips. The judges say the general has, and we quote here, the most engulf lips. That's what the judges say. Also on the list, Arnold Schwarzenegger with the most interminable lips. You can see where this is going. White House Chief of Staff John Sununu, whose travel habits earned him the most grounded lips award, and actress Julia Roberts with the most wanted lips. The list was announced by Blistex, a leading lip care company.
Either the best lips or they were looking for the best puns to go with what
Best
they
lips,
to say.
worst puns kind of thing.
That's early prime. I'm Cheryl Atkinson.
I'm Jonathan Mann. Let's check in with Lauren Sidney now for a look at what's coming up next on Showbiz Today. Lauren?
Thanks, Jonathan and Cheryl. Coming up in the next half hour on CNN, Paul Rubens, better known as Pee Wee Herman, makes a personal appearance in court. Also, following the big success of Home Alone, Hollywood is banking on child stars this season. Those stories and much more coming up next on Showbiz Today. But first, a message and a local cable break.